The night the curse was born, the forest wept blood-red under a blackened moon. It began with betrayal. Centuries ago, a gray alpha, proud, ruthless, and bound by duty, spurned the love of a powerful witch. In her grief, she did not scream. She did not weep. Instead, she smiled as she carved the curse into his skin with silver and whispered the words that would doom his bloodline for eternity. Let your wolf know its mate, but let your human heart forget her. Let your soul ache for what your mind cannot keep. And when you find her, when your beast claims her, may you lose her again and again until madness is your only companion. The magic slithered into his veins, into his descendants. A poison passed from one alpha to the next. Some never found their fated mates, sparing them the torment. Others did, only to wake each morning with no memory of the woman their wolf howled for in the night. Now the curse has found Matthew Gray. His wolf smells her before he ever sees her, honey and storm-wild lavender, a scent that makes his fangs ache. But when the sun rises, the memories fade like smoke. He doesn't remember the way her breath hitches when he pins her with his gaze. He doesn't remember the taste of her fear or her desire. All he knows is the gnawing void in his chest, the dreams that slip through his fingers like shadows, and the rage of his wolf, a beast growing more feral with every forgotten touch, and somewhere in the dark his mate waits, unwanted, unremembered, hungered for. Chapter 1. The Rejection. The scent of bonfire smoke and damp earth clung to the air as Billie Morgan stood at the edge of the moon ceremony, her fingers twisting into the fabric of her dress. The entire pack had gathered beneath the swollen silver moon, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Tonight was supposed to be sacred. Tonight was supposed to be hers. But the moment Alpha Matthew Gray's piercing gaze locked onto hers across the firelit clearing, she knew something was wrong. His nostrils flared, his broad shoulders tensing as if struck by an unseen force. The bond between them, that invisible electric pull that had hummed beneath her skin since the first time she saw him, tightened like a noose. Then his lip curled. No! The word was a blade, clean and sharp, gutting her in front of everyone. Silence crashed over the pack. Billie's heartbeat thundered in her ears, her wolf whimpering in confusion. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. Mates didn't reject each other. Not like this, not without reason. Matthew's jaw clenched, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the ceremonial chalice. "I don't know you," he growled, though his wolf's eyes, those golden predatory slits, burned into her with something far darker than indifference. "And I don't want you." The chalice shattered against the stones. Billie didn't wait for the whispers to start. She ran. Branches lashed at her arms as she plunged into the forest, the cold night air biting at her cheeks. She didn't stop until her lungs screamed and her legs gave out, collapsing against the gnarled roots of an ancient oak. Her wolf howled inside her, a sound so full of grief it made her ribs ache. Then a snarl. Slowly she turned. There, between the trees, stood a massive white wolf. Moonlight gilded its fur, its breath curling in the air like smoke, and its eyes. His eyes. Matthew's wolf watched her with a hunger that made her breath catch. This wasn't rejection. This was possession. But when the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, the wolf vanished, and with it the last flicker of hope that her alpha would ever remember her. Chapter 2. The Wolf in the Shadows. The morning after the rejection, Billie woke with a gasp, her skin damp with sweat, the phantom sensation of teeth grazing her throat still burning on her skin. The dream, no, the memory of the white wolf's golden eyes lingered behind her eyelids, haunting and possessive. She forced herself out of bed, her body aching as if she'd run for miles. The pack house was eerily quiet, the usual hum of morning chatter replaced with hushed whispers and sideways glances. Word of her humiliation had spread like wildfire. She kept her head down as she entered the dining hall, her stomach twisting at the scent of bacon and maple syrup, Matthew's favorite. And there he was, seated at the Alpha's table, his dark hair tousled, his sharp jaw shadowed with stubble. He looked up as she passed, his gaze sweeping over her with cold indifference. He doesn't remember? The realization hit her like a physical blow. Last night, his wolf had stalked her through the forest with primal hunger. But now, she might as well have been a stranger. She grabbed an apple and fled outside, desperate for air. The days blurred together in a cruel cycle. By daylight, Matthew treated her with detached civility, his tone cool whenever duty forced them to interact. But when the sun dipped below the trees, his wolf found her. She felt him before she saw him, a prickle at the back of her neck, the weight of a predator's stare. Every evening, without fail, the white wolf emerged from the shadows, trailing her like a ghost. He never attacked, never approached, just watched. And worse, her wolf responded. Her pulse would race, her skin flushing beneath his scrutiny. She told herself it was fear. Liar. One night, she finally snapped. Spinning on her heel, she faced the beast, her voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The wolf stilled. Then, with deliberate slowness, he stepped into a shaft of moonlight, close enough that she could see the way his fur glowed silver, close enough that her breath hitched at the raw need in his gaze. A low whine built in his throat. Might. The word wasn't spoken. It was felt, vibrating in her bones. She stumbled back. "You don't get to call me that." But when she turned to run, a snarl ripped through the air, not angry, but agonized. And for the first time she wondered if his wolf remembered her. Why did his human half keep forgetting? Chapter 3. A Forbidden Bond. Billie couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them. His eyes. The way Matthew's wolf looked at her in the dark, like she was something sacred, like she was his. But the man who sat across from her at pack meetings, who gave her clipped orders as if she were just another warrior under his command? He didn't even know her name. She needed answers. The pack archives were dusty and forgotten, tucked beneath the Alpha's lodge in a room that smelled of old parchment and dried herbs. Billie lit a lantern, the flickering glow casting long shadows as she pulled down leather-bound tomes with trembling fingers. Curses, bloodlines, forgotten mates. She didn't know what she was looking for until she found it. A single page, brittled with age, its ink faded but still legible. The gray curse, a malady of the soul wherein the Alpha's beast knows its true mate, but the man's mind is barred from remembrance. Each sunrise steals her anew. Each sunset, the wolf mourns. Billie's breath caught. It wasn't just Matthew, it was his blood. A curse passed down through generations, ensuring no gray Alpha would ever keep his mate. Her fingers traced the next lines, her stomach dropping. Without the mate bond, a wolf grows feral. Without the anchor of his Luna, the Alpha will lose himself, first to madness, then to violence. A floorboard creaked behind her. Billie whirled, the book slipping from her grasp. And there he was, Matthew. His broad frame filled the doorway, his golden eyes flickering between human and wolf. His chest rose and fell too fast, as if he'd been running. "You." His voice was rough, raw. "I know you." Her heart stopped. He remembers? But then his gaze went blank again, confusion clouding his features. "Why are you in here?" he demanded, the warmth in his tone vanishing as quickly as it had come. Billie's hope shattered. The curse was stealing him from her, piece by piece, sunrise by sunrise. And if she didn't find a way to break it, he'd be lost forever. Chapter 4. The Alpha's Obsession. The dreams were getting worse. Matthew woke in a tangle of sweat-drenched sheets, his muscles coiled tight, his fangs unsheathed. The scent of her wildflowers and storm-kissed skin still clung to his senses, though he couldn't place why. Every night the same visions tormented him. A woman with honey-brown hair, her lips parted in a gasp as he pinned her beneath him. The way her pulse fluttered beneath his tongue, the intoxicating sweetness of her fear. No, not fear, want. But when dawn came, the memory slipped through his fingers like smoke. All that remained was a gnawing hunger, a restlessness that drove him to pace the borders of his territory like a caged beast. "Alpha!" Beta Jace's voice snapped him back to the present. They stood in the training yard, the morning sun glaring down as warriors sparred around them. "You're distracted," Jace said carefully, wiping blood from a split lip. "The pack notices." Matthew's jaw tightened. He was distracted by a ghost, by a scent he couldn't place, by the way his wolf howled at night, clawing at his ribs like it wanted to tear free and hunt something, someone. His gaze snagged on her. Billie, the rejected mate he barely remembered dismissing. She moved through the drills with lethal grace, her strikes sharp, her dodges fluid. When a young warrior lunged at her, she flipped him onto his back in one smooth motion, her laugh bright and unburdened. Something dark and possessive twisted in Matthew's gut. Mine. The thought came unbidden, vicious in its certainty. Before he could stop himself, he was striding toward her. The training yard fell silent. Billie froze as he approached, her breath hitching when he crowded into her space. Up close, she smelled like heaven and defiance, like something he needed to taste. "You fight well?" he murmured, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Her eyes widened. "Thank you, Alpha." The title grated. He wanted her to say his name, wanted to know if it would sound like a prayer or a curse on her lips. A growl built in his chest. Then the wind shifted, carrying the scent, another male approaching. Liam, a warrior, a rival, and the way he looked at Billie, like he wanted to claim her. Matthew saw red. His canines lengthened, his vision sharpening to wolfish clarity as he stepped between Billie and Liam, a warning rumble tearing from his throat. "Mine!" He snarled. The word wasn't for Liam, it was for her. For the woman his wolf refused to forget, even if his mind couldn't hold on to her. And as the pack stared in stunned silence, one truth became undeniable. Matthew Gray was losing control. And Billie, she was the only one who could save him. Chapter 5. The Witch's Secret. The forest swallowed Billie whole as she trekked beyond packlands, the trees growing denser, their gnarled branches clawing at the bruised twilight sky. The air here tasted different, thick with magic and the metallic tang of old blood. She shouldn't be here. No sane werewolf ventured into Blackthorn Hollow, where the veil between worlds was thin, and the earth remembered every spell ever spilled upon it. But sanity had abandoned her the moment she'd read those crumbling pages of the archives. The curse could be broken, but the cost? That's what she needed to know. The witch's cottage looked like something out of a nightmare, a crooked structure of blackened wood and moss-choked stone, its windows glowing with eerie green light. The door creaked open before Billie could knock. "I wondered when you'd come." The voice was young, but the eyes ancient. The witch stood silhouetted in the doorway, her crimson hair braided with bones, her smile sharp as a blade. "You're the last descendant," Billie breathed, "the one who cursed the gray bloodline." A laugh, low and melodic. "Not me, girl, my great-great-grandmother, but the magic?" She tapped a finger against her temple. "That runs in the blood." Billie stepped inside, her skin prickling as the door slammed shut behind her. The air hummed with power, dried herbs and strange artifacts hanging from the ceiling. A black cauldron bubbled in the hearth, its contents smelling of burnt sugar and sorrow. "Can it be undone?" she demanded. The witch studied her, then smirked. "Oh, you're in love with him." "Don't lie to a witch, little wolf. It's written all over you, the way your pulse jumps when he's near, the way your wolf whines for him at night." She leaned in, her breath hot against Billie's ear. "Does his wolf whisper pretty things to you in the dark?" Billie's cheeks burned. "Tell me how to break the curse." The witch sighed, swirling a finger in the cauldron's steam. "There's a ritual performed under the blood moon when the veil is thinnest. His wolf must claim you, fully, completely, while the human side of him is awake enough to remember it." Billie's stomach dropped. "That's it?" "Oh, no." The witch's grin turned feral. "If it fails? If his human half rejects you again after the claiming?" She pressed a cold hand to Billie's chest, right over her frantic heart. "The magic rebounds. You die, he goes mad, and the curse lives on." The words hung between them, suffocating. Billie swallowed hard. "When's the next blood moon?" 3 nights. 3 nights to convince a man who forgot her daily to choose her. 3 nights before his wolf either claimed her or destroyed them both. The witch's laughter chased her into the dark as Billie fled, one phrase ringing in her ears like a death knell. "Love or oblivion, little wolf. Choose wisely." Chapter 6. Blood and Memory. The pack was restless. Billie could feel it in the air, the tension coiling tighter with each passing hour, like a wolf caught in a trap just before it chews off its own leg to escape. The blood moon was coming, and with it, either salvation or ruin. She had to tell him. Tracking Matthew down was harder than she expected. He'd become a ghost in his own territory, disappearing for hours at a time, only to reappear with wild eyes and bloodied knuckles, as if he'd been fighting shadows. She found him at the northern border, standing at the edge of the cliff, the wind tearing at his clothes like invisible hands trying to pull him apart. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was rough, raw, like his wolf had been howling for hours. Billie stepped closer, her pulse hammering. "I know about the curse." He went utterly still. "I know your wolf remembers me." She continued, her breath fogging in the cold air. "I know you forget me every sunrise, and I know there's a way to break it." Slowly he turned. The man who faced her was barely recognizable. His golden eyes were bloodshot, his skin stretched too tight over sharpened features. He looked like a starved thing, half mad with hunger. "Tell me," he growled. So she did. The ritual, the claiming, the risk. When she finished, the silence between them was deafening. Matthew's hands trembled at his sides. "If it goes wrong?" "It won't. You could die." The words tore out of him like a wounded animal's cry. Billie stepped forward, close enough to see the war raging in his gaze, the man's fear, the wolf's desperation. "Do you remember me now?" she whispered. A muscle jumped in his jaw. "Fragments, dreams, the way you taste." He cut himself off, his nostrils flaring. "It's not enough." "Then let your wolf have me." She bared her throat in submission and defiance all at once. "Let him claim what's already his." Matthew made a broken sound. One moment, he was a man. The next, fangs at her throat, hot breath against her skin, and a voice, both human and wolf, whispering against her pulse. "3 nights, little mate. Then I either save you or destroy us both." When she looked up, he was gone. Only the echo of his promise remained, and the terrifying, exhilarating certainty that when the blood moon rose, there would be no turning back. Write Chapter 7 in detailed paragraph form. Chapter 8. Forgotten no more. Dawn came, and for the first time in centuries, he remembered. Matthew woke with a gasp, his body drenched in sweat, his pulse hammering like a war drum. The scent of her, lavender and honey, blood and salt, clung to his skin, tangled in his sheets. Billie. Her name was a prayer on his lips, a revelation. Memories crashed over him in relentless waves. The first time he saw her at the pack gathering, sunlight catching in her wild curls. The way his wolf had howled in recognition while his human mind fought the bond. The brutal rejection he didn't remember giving, but whose aftermath was etched into every haunted look she'd ever given him. And last night, the claiming, the raw, primal need that had consumed him as his teeth sank into her flesh, binding their souls together under the blood moon. The way she had arched against him, her breathless cry of yes, 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 vibrating through the bond like a live wire. His hands shook. He had spent lifetimes forgetting her. Now he couldn't imagine a world where she wasn't seared into his every thought. Billie was in the kitchen when he found her. She stood by the window, the morning light painting her in gold, her fingers absently tracing the fresh claiming mark on her neck. His mark. Matthew's breath caught. She turned before he could speak, her eyes widening as she took him in, his disheveled hair, his bare chest, the desperate intensity in his gaze. "You're still here," she whispered, something fractured in his chest. She thought I'd forget again. He crossed the room in 3 strides, cradling her face between his hands, his thumbs brushing the tears she hadn't realized were falling. "Every sunrise for the rest of my life," he vowed, his voice raw. "Every moment, every breath, I will know you." Then he kissed her, slow, deep, reverent, like he was memorizing the shape of her lips. Billie melted against him, her fingers digging into his shoulders as the bond between them sang, bright and unbroken. But outside, the pack stirred. Whispers slithered through the halls. "The Alpha has claimed his rejected mate. The curse is broken." What does this mean for us? Matthew pulled back just enough to press his forehead to hers, his next words a dark promise. "They will learn he growled. "What happens to those who dared to think you were ever unwanted?" Because now that he remembered, now that she was his in every way, there would be hell to pay. Chapter 9. Enemies of Fate. The pack house was too quiet. Billie felt their stares like knives between her shoulder blades as she walked beside Matthew through the great hall. The bond between them hummed, alive and electric, but the tension in the air was suffocating. Whispers slithered in their wake. She forced the bond. "The curse was our protection. Now look at him. He's obsessed." An alpha ruled by his Luna is no alpha at all. Matthew's fingers tightened around hers, his growl vibrating through their connection. She squeezed back, a silent plea for restraint. But then came the voice that shattered any hope of peace. "You expect us to follow a leader who can't even control his own wolf?" Liam, the broad-shouldered warrior, stepped forward, his lip curled in open challenge. Around him, others murmured agreement, their eyes flashing with rebellion. Matthew went preternaturally still. "Careful," he said, so softly it was more threat than warning. Liam smirked. "Or what? You'll rip my throat out? Prove you're nothing but the beast she tamed?" A gasp went through the crowd. Billie felt the exact moment Matthew's control snapped. 1 second, he was beside her. The next, blood on the floorboards. Liam pinned beneath him, Matthew's claws at his jugular, his fangs bared in a snarl that shook the walls. "You will kneel," Matthew thundered, his voice layered with the power of his wolf, "to your alpha and to your Luna." The pack froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Then a howl cut through the silence, not from the pack, from the forest. Billie's blood turned to ice. Rogues, dozens of them, their eyes glowing like embers in the dark beyond the tree line, and at their head stood a monster in Alpha's clothing, tall, scarred, his smile a promise of violence. "Gray," the rogue Alpha bellowed, "I hear you finally claimed your mate. How fortunate for me." Matthew's grip on Liam went slack as the truth crashed over them both. This was no coincidence. This was an attack. And the pack was divided. Billie met Matthew's gaze, their bond screaming with the same realization they would have to fight, not just for their lives, but for each other. Chapter 10. The Luna's Choice. The world narrowed to the pounding of war drums and the metallic scent of fear. Rogues poured from the tree line like a flood of teeth and claws, their snarls shredding the night. The pack, still fractured, still hesitating, scrambled to form a defensive line, but the disunity was obvious. Warriors glanced between Matthew and Liam, torn between loyalty and doubt. Billie saw the moment Matthew realized the truth. He couldn't lead them like this, not when half his pack questioned his right to rule, not when defending her meant risking everything. His wolf raged in his eyes, the bond between them burning with fury and helplessness. Billie, she knew what he was going to say. "Run, hide, let me handle this." But she was done running. The rogue Alpha lunged first, his massive form barreling toward Matthew with a howl that shook the earth. They collided in a whirl of claws and snapping jaws, two alphas locked in a death match, their fight too fast, too vicious for anyone to intervene. Billie moved on instinct. She wasn't just a rejected mate anymore. She was a Luna. Warriors of the Gray Pack. Her voice rang out, clear and commanding, laced with a power she didn't know she had. "You want proof your alpha is strong? Then fight for him. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Liam, the warrior who had challenged Matthew only moments ago, let out a battle cry and shifted, his wolf lunging into the fray. That was all it took. The pack surged as one, a tidal wave of fur and fury crashing against the rogues. Billie didn't hesitate. She shifted mid-sprint, her wolf sleek and lethal as she tore into the enemy. But the rogue alpha wasn't the real threat. It was his second. A hulking beast with eyes like dying stars locked onto her, his muzzle dripping saliva. Mate stealer? The words slithered into her mind through the rogue's mind link, their contempt for her, for what she represented, burning like poison. She barely dodged his first strike. The second sent her crashing into the dirt, her ribs screaming. Then pain. His teeth sank into her shoulder, the wound searing like fire. Through the bond, she felt Matthew's agony, his terror. Billie. He tried to reach her, but the rogue alpha was relentless, forcing him back. Her vision blurred. The rogue's jaws tightened, ready to snap her spine, when a howl split the night. Not Matthew's. Hers. A howl of defiance, of power, that made the earth itself tremble. Silver light erupted from her pelt, blinding and beautiful as the ancient magic of the Lunaptar, her magic uncoiled from her soul. The rogue screamed as the light burned him alive. The pack stopped and stared. Even Matthew froze, his golden eyes wide with awe. Billie rose, her wolf glowing like a fallen star, her voice echoing through every mind in the clearing. This pack is mine to protect. Double asterisk. And for the first time in centuries, a Luna of the gray bloodline howled back. The battle ended in ashes and blood. The surviving rogues fled. The pack knelt. And Matthew? He crossed the battlefield in 3 strides, his human hands cradling her wolf's face, his forehead pressed to hers as he whispered the words that would forever bind them. Not just my mate, my equal. The curse was broken, the war was won, but their reign, it was only beginning. Epilogue, fated at last. The furred snow of winter dusted the gray-packed territory in a hush of white, softening the scars of battle and wrapping the world in quiet stillness. In the Alpha's lodge, firelight danced across the stone walls, casting flickering shadows that seemed to bow in reverence to the couple entwined before the hearth. Billie traced the new scars on Matthew's chest, each one a testament to their war, their survival, their unbreakable bond. His heartbeat thundered beneath her fingertips, steady as the ancient oaks outside, yet wild with the same untamed rhythm as the night he'd claimed her under the blood moon. Look at me. Matthew's command was velvet-wrapped steel, his fingers tilting her chin up. Moonlight caught in his golden eyes, no longer fractured by the curse, but burning with single-minded intensity. The way he looked at her now, like she was air, like she was war, like she was the only prayer he'd ever spoken, made her breath catch. "I remember everything," he said, voice rough. "The first time I saw you by the training grounds, all fire and defiance. The way my wolf howled when you bled at the moon ceremony." His thumb brushed the claiming mark on her throat, making her shiver. And the exact moment I realized the curse wasn't just stealing my memories, it was stealing my soul. Billie's pulse stuttered as he suddenly lifted her, pressing her back against the fur-draped wall. His mouth found the frantic flutter at her wrist, then the delicate shell of her ear. "You fought for me? when I couldn't fight for myself," he growled. "Now let me worship you the way a mate should." The world narrowed to teeth and whispered vows. To the slide of his calloused hands, relearning every curve, the possessive growl when she arched against him, the way he murmured mine against her skin like it was the only word he knew. When their bodies joined, it wasn't the frenzied claiming to the blood moon, but something deeper, a slow, devastating possession that had tears streaking her cheeks. Afterward, as dawn painted the sky in rose and gold, Matthew did something that shattered her completely. He knelt, not as her alpha, but as her mate, his forehead pressed to her bare feet, his voice breaking. "Every sunrise I've forgot you is a debt I'll spend eternity repaying." Billie tangled her fingers in his hair, tugging until his wildfire gaze met hers. "No debts," she whispered. "Just this." Their kiss tasted of forgiveness and forever. Outside, the pack stirred to life, children laughing as they kicked up snow, warriors heading out for the morning patrol. But in this room, time stood still for the alpha who had been broken and the Luna who had remade him. The curse was gone. The war was won. And as Matthew Gray carried his mate to their bed, murmuring promises against her skin, one truth echoed louder than any pack's howl. Some loves were written in the stars. Theirs was carved in scars, sealed in blood, and destined to outlast even the legends.